with Russia and the United States now. This is a vice president, a former vice president that used to serve for a former president who used to say that the situation with Russia was yesteryear's story. It's not anymore.
President Biden, given the increased tension during the election of the last cycle, has a lot of pressure for how he's going to be dealing with Russia and obviously Ukraine as well. So for him to be using that language, for him to be taking that rhetorical approach is a clear sign of who he is aligning himself with in Congress, including the likes of some more hawkish members of his party, as well as from a foreign policy perspective, hawkish, as well as from the Republican centers as well. In addition to that, I would also note that Secretary Blinken, traveling in his first overseas trip earlier this week, making a stop in Tokyo, Japan, also putting some pressure on China. This is, without question, Jonathan, the most plain speak week for the administration, for them to articulate their views on both Russia and China.
Tom, they couldn't even agree on that climate change summit. So what really came out of these talks?
Well, Sherry, you're right to start with what was not agreed. It's easier to start there, really. They didn't agree to additional talks beyond this. They didn't agree, as you say, to that summit between the two presidents that the Chinese side had hoped for. And they didn't agree, of course, to a framework to address issues ranging from tariffs to export controls to issues involving cybersecurity and human rights.
Overseas tonight, Vladimir Putin is now responding to President Biden after the president told our George Stephanopoulos that Putin is a killer.
Tonight, Russia is firing back, bringing home its ambassador to the U.S. after what President Biden told George Stephanopoulos about Vladimir Putin.
You think he's a killer? Mm-hmm. I do.
This is how former President Trump answered that same question in 2017.
Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why you think our country's so innocent?
Today, Putin making it clear Biden's statement did not sit well with him. I would say to him, be well. I wish him good health, he said. I say that without any irony, without jokes. Putin adding that when Biden calls him a killer, he's really talking about himself. Putin saying when we evaluate even other states, other peoples, we always look as though in a mirror. We always see ourselves.
Both sides, though, did come out and say, look, these talks were constructive. They have enabled both sides to clear the air. That's what the U.S. said. And what it really has crystallized as well, just more broadly, is that you have a Biden administration that, for now at least, has taken the Trump administration's policies, tightened them, and layered on top of that an additional focus on human rights. On the Chinese side, you have an increasingly confident China on the back of the economic recovery that we're seeing here, but also on their ability to have crushed the virus in China, and then underscoring once again their focus on what they say are national security issues and territorial issues for which they will not back down.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
Which is it? Which is it? For 3 months, the Democrats told us that the 2020 election was fine. There was no need for an investigation. It was flawless. But today, they tell us we need to change election law with an 800-page bill. Think about it. We need all this, 800 pages, to fix a flawless election? Maybe something else is going on here. Last year, COVID was the pretext for making changes to election law. Partisan courts, partisan secretary of states went around state legislatures in an unconstitutional fashion and changed election law in some states. And now they want to make sure those unconstitutional changes in a few states become the law in all states. That's what this is about. This isn't the first time Democrats have tried to have it both ways, talked out of both sides of their mouth. Remember what they said. Democrats said Republicans tried to overturn the will of the people on January 6, 2021, when we objected to 6 states, but on January 6, 2017, they objected to 10 states. The Democrat chair of the Rules Committee objected to Alabama, a state President Trump won by 30 points. The lead impeachment manager objected to Florida, and the chairwoman of the Financial Services Committee objected to Wyoming. Wyoming, for goodness sake, a state that President Trump won by 40 points. They tried to overturn the will of the people in Wyoming. We know what this is about. This is about raw politics,
Gentlemen's
and
time
we should
expired.
all vote no.
Hi, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Sign up, follow, and hit notifications to get this latest political news delivered each day without the mainstream media manufacturing consent narrative. Send your tips and suggestions to our homepage at facebook.com/Tommy Nation Politics. Without further ado, here is the Tommy Nation Politic. Democratic frustration boiling over as Biden administration staffing runs out of gas. I guess a lot of people have smoked marijuana in their past. DHS Secretary defends Biden's immigration policies amid surge at the border. Trump world is at war, with the news guaranteed to give the former president tremendous ratings. Big ratings. But first, breaking this morning, big pharma giant AstraZeneca reported results from the U.S. trial of its COVID-19 vaccine. A trial of 32,000 people found that it was 79% effective, clearing the way for potential FDA authorization. Another corporate win for the COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody's got a golden ticket when you're a corporation, I guess. Republicans are ramping up their attacks on Democrats over the ongoing crisis at the border. Last week, they introduced a new ad campaign that accused Biden of opening the border instead of focusing on opening schools and businesses. The sudden increase in migrants at the southern border has given Republicans a new reason to hold up immigration reform in the Senate. Even bipartisan measures like the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, H.R. 1603, which would have created a pathway to citizenship for thousands of non-citizen farm workers and broadly expand the H-2A temporary agricultural worker visa, seems destined to languish in the closely divided chamber. There is no pathway for anything right now, Senator Lindsey Graham said, Republican of South Carolina, to the New York Times of reporters. Meanwhile, Ilhan Omar of the Squad made a statement of her own. She wrote a letter to Biden's Director of Domestic Policy, Susan Rice, and Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, urging the Biden administration to issue an executive order announcing a plan to phase out contracts between ICE and state, county, and local jails and prisons. As of Saturday, more than 5,000 unaccompanied children were in U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody. According to documents obtained by CNN, this news comes as President Joe Biden's administration attempts to quickly devise solutions to address the evolving immigration situation. The media largely has focused on the number of unaccompanied children at the border, but Ilhan Omar is urging media outlets to address the root causes and the immigration crisis and focus on cruelty and contradictory foreign policies. Speaking of foreign policy, we've got some developments in the foreign policy department. New coordinated sanctions on China. And Germany and Merkel stepping in as well. Three sources on both sides of the Atlantic have told reporters from Politico, CNN, and Reuters that European Union, Canada, and Britain are working on announcing coordinated sanctions against China for its treatment of the Muslim Uyghur minority. Both Washington and the Canadian Parliament define Beijing's Uyghur treatment as genocide. The sanctions are expected to vary in type and will include global and economic sanctions on individuals alleged to be involved with the mistreatment of Muslims in the Xinjiang region of China. The EU earlier today approved sanctions against 4 Chinese officials involved in running internment camps, while conspicuously avoided targeting the top Communist Party boss, Xing Jianxian, Guangzhou, who was hit by U.S. measures last year. In lesser United States-related foreign policy matters, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken arrives in Brussels today for 3 days of meetings with defense ministers from NATO countries, European Commission Vice President Ursula von der Leyen, and EU Chief Diplomat Josep Borrell, and Belgian Deputy Prime Minister Sophie Wilms. Under the radar, Argentina renegotiates IMF deal. Finance Minister Martin Guzman is in Washington this week for talks with the senior International Monetary Fund officials that could set the tone of a string of post-COVID IMF negotiations. The scale of global COVID stimulus, the debt sustainability from Greece bailouts over the past decades, set Argentina's challenges in a new light. The goal, a new deal around May. Back to the happenstances in our own failed state oligarchy.
Trump endorses challenger to Georgia. Secretary of State Raffensperger. Former President Donald Trump on Monday endorsed a primary challenger to Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who refused Trump's demands to find enough votes to overturn the state's presidential election results. Wow, just heard the good news. One of our most outstanding congressmen, Jody Heiss, has announced he is running for Secretary of State in the great state of Georgia, Trump said in a statement Monday. Unlike the current Georgia Secretary of State, Jody leads out front with integrity, Trump added. After the November election, Trump repeatedly clung to numerous conspiracy theories claiming that he'd won Georgia, not Joe Biden, who got about 12,000 more votes. Trump continued to blame Raffensperger and Gov. Brian Kemp, also a Republican, for the loss even as his various theories were debunked, with multiple recounts and audits confirming the outcome. Trump, who had also lost court challenges over the results, called Raffensperger to urge him again to overturn the results in the days before the January 6th electoral vote count. So look, Trump told Raffensperger on the call, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. There's no way I lost Georgia. Trump said at another point during the call, there's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. Trump's endorsement came shortly after Heiss, who had backed Trump's claims there was widespread fraud in the election, announced his candidacy Monday morning. Free and fair elections are the foundation of our country, the four-term congressman said in a statement to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. What Brad Raffensperger did was create cracks in the integrity of our elections, which I wholeheartedly believe individuals took advantage of in 2020. Heiss objected to Georgia's electoral vote being counted on January 6th, even after a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, delaying the vote count. In a since-deleted Instagram post on the morning of January 6th, Heiss wrote, "This is our 1776 moment." A spokeswoman for Heiss told the Journal-Constitution the next day that the post was our way of highlighting the electoral objection, and they removed it when we realized it could be misconstrued as supporting those acting violently yesterday and storming the Capitol.
45 is alive. The former president, Donald Trump, is urging Republicans to push his election fraud lie, which is showing to be a driving narrative of the party. Former President Donald Trump endorsed GOP Representative Jody Heiss for Georgia Secretary of State on Monday, after attacking incumbent Republican Brad Raffensperger for overseeing his loss in the state last year. Raffensperger oversaw 3 ballot counts, confirming Joe Biden's victory over Trump in Georgia, the first for a Democratic presidential candidate since 1992. Heiss was a staunch backer of Trump's election challenges in Georgia despite any evidence of widespread fraud. In January, Heiss proudly voted against certifying the 2020 election and later blamed Trump's loss on Raffensperger, even though the Georgia Secretary of State merely reaffirmed the counting of the votes. Things I'll be investigating later on this week: Democrats' sweeping electoral reform bill. The For the People Act was introduced in the Senate last week, but does it actually have a path through the Senate? And what are some of the concerns of those supporting the bill? Even more interesting, will this swamp Senate look up a electoral reform bill, or even give the press a rough draft before the first vote? Probably not. Also on my list of things to wonder about, will Governor and Emmy Award winner Andrew Cuomo finally resign his post in the New York Big Boys Club? That's right, guys. Cuomo is back. The latest accusation of inappropriate behavior by Governor Andrew Cuomo comes from a woman still employed in his office. Current aide Alyssa McGrath told the New York Times that Cuomo looked down her shirt, referred to her and a coworker as mingled mamas, and commented on her looks. McGrath also provides some backup for the most serious claims against Cuomo, that he groped the breasts of an unidentified aide at the governor's mansion. McGrath said that aide described the incident to her in detail after it was reported by the Times. McGrath said Cuomo paid unwanted attention over the last 3 years, to both her and the aide he allegedly groped. I don't know who feels more violated, Alyssa McGrath or the neoliberal elitist Hollywood cucks who gave Cuomo an enemy for his press conference. No, probably McGrath, since those cucks have absolutely no shame. Well, as the news develops, we will be here to hoist the watchful eye over it. You know, that the Fourth Estate dubiously neglected a long time ago. With free thinking, innovative, and open-minded commentary, this is your new independent progressive media.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Last words. Responsibly responsible.
Tommy Nation Politics. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today at Tommy Nation Politics. And don't forget to think